I gotta say, let me show you how to play in this game. You gotta understand how to get this aim, okay?
It's a bar reach.
If you can't run with them, how you gonna run with us? If you can't run with them, yo, I know some. If you can't run with them, then you left in the dust. I know you getting crushed, don't be in the rush. You gotta master the planes that you own. You gotta master the hills that are next. Then you get straight to the mountains. Then the blessings start pouring like a fountain. If you can't run with the footmen, you can't run with the horsemen. You're gonna get stomped out. Blessings, family. Welcome to the journey. I'm Jeshron, the Promised Land Consultant. You know the vision statement that we say every time you walk in this office, and we do a breakdown with yours truly, which is, I'm dedicated to serving you from sun up to sun down. Dedicated, family, to seeing you planted, growing, and manifesting in your Promised Land, family. It's good to have you back. I know you've been wanting to come back in this office, talk to me about up from down, left to right, what's been happening in your journey. So the analysis that I have for you today for how we are going to improve our odds for getting to our hopes, dreams, aspirations, the Promised Land, baby. You know what you know. I know that you know what I'm talking about. But that analysis for today, that theme for today is if you've run with the boys and been wearied, then how are you going to run with the men? If you've run with the boys and been wearied, then how are you going to run with the men? This is a message that I know each and every one of us needs to hear, because I remember in one of my first days in corporate America, way back, I think it was 2010, my first day on. I was working, I was doing a good job, and I came to a spot where there's something I didn't know, and I let the customer know that I didn't know. And I lost that customer, I lost gaining a client because of that. And when my boss reviewed the situation with me, the circumstances, he was asking me what happened. I told him this, I told him that, and then I said, this is where I lost my footing, this is where I lost traction. And what he said to me was, fake it until you make it. I will never forget those words. He said, fake it until you make it. And like a complete idiot, I believed him. I took his word for it. And any time I didn't know something from that point forward for about maybe 7 years when I was in that company, I faked it until I made it. Now, this does work to an extent. However, the amount of pressure, the amount of stress this brings on yourself is unimaginable, because there's going to be a point where you can no longer fake it until you make it, and people are going to realize the facade that you have been putting up. And at that moment, ooh, that's when things come tumbling down. That's where you gotta face the truth. That's where you get your feet stuck to the fire. And let me tell you, boy, that is something else when it transpires and when it goes down. But here's the advice that I give to you today when you realize that when you've been running with the boys and you aren't keeping up, but now you're running with the men. Like, if you ain't running with them, how you gonna run with us? If you master the level that you were on. Very simplistic advice, and that's always what I'm going to tote and push to you, is simplicity for the advice. It doesn't need to be complex what you're doing. You want to master the basics like Tim Duncan. He just does the basic bounce pass off the backboard. You know what I'm saying? He's getting rebounds every game. You know you're gonna get good stats out of Timmy, because he's focusing on the basics. No matter what sport you look at, hockey, NFL, NBA, when the guys are warming up, they're focusing on the basics. They're keeping it basics, because it's the basics, what you fall back on, your technique, that's going to carry you through the hard times. And when you find yourself in that moment where you want to go to the next level, but you're not ready, right? You're running with the boys, but you want to run with the men, but you're not ready yet, but you want to make that leap. Focus on your basics. Go all in on your basics on that journey to your hopes, your dreams, and your aspirations Focus on it every single day. Make a habit of focusing on those before you get to game time, and watch how it uplifts you. So when it's time for you to make that leap, when it's time for you to get ready to face that giant, when it's time for you to climb to the next level, you're ready because you've been focusing on what you've needed to be focusing on the whole time, and never stray from the basics. You can add new things along the way, but there's basic foundational habits that you don't want to let go of, that you're working on in the morning, that you're working on at night, that are going to keep you tip-top shape and always ready to throw hands, or have that perfect jumper when the time comes. Don't lose the basics, or else you'll end up faking it until you make it, right? There's information that you needed to know, but you didn't focus on it. So now when you're in that moment where the heat's on, you're faking it, right? Something that somebody told me at my very first job that I tried, and let me tell you, it works, but it's gonna have you under some stress that you don't wanna be under, and there's a breaking point. You're going to get to a breaking point, and it's going to come soon. You're only gonna make it so far faking it until people find out that you aren't what you say you are, and that's when it all comes tumbling down. Ooh, that day of reckoning, see? But when you've been working on your foundation day in and day out, and you've been finding new techniques to improve your foundation, once you've mastered the basics, that's when you get to your breaking point and you realize that, hey, this is easy. I've been ready for this. I've been preparing for this. I've been coming up with new ways. I've been focusing on what needs to be focused on. And let me tell you something. This particular conversation that we're having was born out of Jeremiah 12:5. Realize that every conversation I come up with, it comes out of the Bible. You feel me? Greatest motivational book out there. And this comes from Jeremiah 12:5, when Jeremiah was trying to get to the next level, and God was like, listen, Jeremiah, I'm gonna be 100 with you because that's who I am. And he told Jeremiah, if thou hast run with the footmen and they have wearied thee, then how can thou contend with the horses? And if in the land of peace where thou trusted they wearied thee, then how wilt thou do in the swelling of the Jordan? God's like, Jeremiah, if you ain't getting it done against the footmen, how you gonna do anything against these horsemen that I want you to fight, right? And if you can't do it right here in your own hometown, I know you ain't gonna do it somewhere else, you know what I'm saying, where you don't know nobody. You feel me? God always wants to prosper us, but he does it in levels, precept on precept, line on line. That's how he takes us to the next level. So remember, stay tuned in to the basics, right? It's the lifeblood for us when we focus on the simple things and then build from there. But no matter what, we're always coming back to the foundational block, that cornerstone that everything is hinged on. That's what we put the majority of our time on, are those building blocks in those moments. It's like my man Bruce Lee said, right? I'm not afraid of the fighter that knows 10,000 different punches, but I'm afraid of the fighter that has practiced one punch 10,000 times. And that's the aim that we need to have as we are going to our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, that promised land, is to simply believe and know that if we focus on that foundation and getting 10,000 reps every day, getting as many reps as we can in those basics, that when those problems and issues pop up, we're prepared for it. We're focused because we've been focusing on what we've needed to focus on the whole time. Family, that's the analysis for today that I believe that can bring you prosperity, peace, and blessings on the way to your promised land, which is, if you can't run with them, how you gonna run with us? Which is basically telling you, when you want to go to the next level, when you feel like you're ready to make that jump, make sure that throughout the journey, you have continuously been focusing on the basics and shoring up your foundation, family. I'm Just Ron, the Promised Land Consultant, and you know that I'm dedicated to serving you from sun up to sun down. Dedicated, family, to seeing you planted, growing, and manifesting in your promised land. Let me pray for you real quick, like I always do on the way to your promised land, family. I pray that you focus on those basics, getting in as many reps as you can, 10,000 on 10,000s of reps, so you have the basics committed to your muscle memory, committed in your mind to the point that it's just a simple reflex that you don't even think about. When you are getting to that promised land, when you are coming into your own, that you don't jump levels before you are ready. All right, family, I hope each and every one of you have a blessed one until I catch you in the next one.
Gotta master them basics. Don't waste your time, it's a time to grind. Let me tell you what you're gonna find when you digging in that soil, becoming royal. Gotta do it every day, that's how we toil.
It's a bar reach.
If you can't run with them, how you gonna run with us? Yeah, you about to get crushed. You in a rush to level up. You trying to get to the bag, but I see you flagging, moving back and forth, lost in the wind, trying just to win. Nah, your enemies sitting back and they just gonna grin, cause they know they're gonna bend your back, your spine every time you come.